What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to this, my review of the new film Batman vs. Superman. So I saw it this weekend, and I gotta say, I was blown away by this movie. This does not necessarily mean that I loved this movie, but there's definitely a whole lot to talk about. Okay, so this movie is sort of an event. I mean, fans of Batman and Superman and superhero movies in general have been waiting for at least Batman and Superman to appear on screen together. Not even necessarily fight, but just appear on screen together for like 60 years now. Ever since it was even a conceived thought. And this movie really delivers in that it is very much a Batman and Superman film. It gives ample screen time to both characters. Henry Cavill as Superman, we have seen before in Man of Steel, and he does get more to do here. He got, plenty to do in the last film, but he didn't get to talk a whole lot, and we didn't see a huge range of emotions for him. At least I didn't think so. But he gets more here, and his character is very much developed. You can see that he is a different person now than he was in Man of Steel. I think that's awesome. And he still, I think, is a really good Superman. He embodies a lot of what Superman is supposed to be, but also he feels like a real person. He doesn't feel like a cartoon of himself. Let's see, Ben Affleck as Batman. I was hesitant when I first heard that he was cast as Batman, but he has proved me wrong. In this movie, Ben Affleck is maybe not the best Batman, but he definitely feels like Batman. He doesn't feel off or wrong. He maybe feels different from Christian Bale or any of the other Batmans we've seen before, but it definitely feels like we are seeing a version of Batman on screen. Now, these characters, well, Batman in particular, he seems a whole lot more brutal and off than normal, not as cool and calm and collected as we've seen him before, but I feel like for this particular situation, it works. Okay, now the other big character in this film, obviously, is Lex Luthor. And I have to say two things. Number one, he is not the Lex Luthor I wanted. Number two, he is a good villain, and he works in this movie. Unfortunately, he does feel more like the Riddler as a character. He feels kind of off, kind of insane. And he doesn't really feel like I have always imagined Lex Luthor is. That sort of calm, collected, and sort of almost heroic figure. Like you could really believe that people would follow him instead of Superman. In this, he feels much more off his rocker, but he is still very entertaining to watch if you can get over that he's not like other Lex Luthors. And he really does fit this story and provide a really imposing villain, even though he can't physically hurt any of the heroes that we see. Let's see. Supporting cast, we've got Lois Lane coming back. She was great. I really didn't expect to see as much of her as I did. And when she was on screen, she was great. At least as good, or if not better, than she was in Man of Steel. Let's see, Wonder Woman. I thought it was a horrible move to cast Gal Gadot, I'm pretty sure that's how you say her name, as Wonder Woman when I first heard this news, because she had done virtually nothing. But apparently in auditions or wherever they found her, they saw something and it really works for Wonder Woman. I'm not going to say how much of the film she's in, but for what she's in, she was really enjoyable, and some of her scenes I really thought were up there with my favorite scenes of the movie. And I'm excited to see if she can carry a whole film by herself, or at least lead a film, because she definitely filled the Wonder Woman boots in this movie. Now let's see. There are other characters back from Man of Steel. Like, pretty much think of any character from Man of Steel that you thought was going to be back. They're back. And not hogging screen time or anything, but it's nice to see that the universe continues and they didn't just drop characters like have been done in some Marvel movies. Speaking of how this feels different from Marvel, I know it's not fair to compare the two, but I'm going to use Marvel as the other big superhero franchise to sort of springboard into how Man of Steel fits into its own cinematic universe. With Marvel movies, even like X-Men or Spider-Man movies, you sort of feel that there's been a long time passed between each individual movie, or at least enough, there's a distance, is what I'm trying to say, between Iron Man 1 and Iron Man 2. The events of Iron Man 1 do not necessarily really relate to the events of Iron Man 2, other than that they happened. Every single thing that happened in Man of Steel profoundly affects what happened in Batman vs. Superman. It's almost like part 1, part 2, even though the time gap is like 2 or 3 years, as much as it was, you know, in the real world between the movies coming out. And I love that. I love that everything had a consequence for Man of Steel. And it really felt like they were thinking about where this story could go when they were making Man of Steel, or at least that they were really, when writing the script for Batman vs. Superman, they were really thinking about the impact that Man of Steel had. Now, Zack Snyder, who directed this movie, has a certain stylistic tone. If you've seen 300 or if you've seen Sucker Punch, you know that this can either be really good or really bad. Here, I think it works in a certain way because it feels, in some scenes, like a comic book. Like there's particularly one scene very close to the beginning where I felt like I was looking at live-action versions of a comic strip. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. For that particular scene, it worked really well. And generally, throughout the movie, even though it's pretty stylized, I didn't feel like it broke reality or anything. I would like a little bit more realism, as in the not quite as dark, as it doesn't feel like the real world anymore, but a little bit of lightness. And side note, thank God for the couple of moments of comedy in this movie, because this is a heavy movie. But sometimes I just laughed out loud, and it was really refreshing. We need more of that. But anyway, getting back to what I was saying, there are some scenes, and you'll know what I'm talking about if you see the movie, that are really, really stylized. And they feel kind of like Sucker Punch. In that I was like, what is happening and why are we watching this? I felt like they were unnecessary. I felt like what they were conveying you got anyway, even if you cut those scenes completely out of the movie. That being said, they were kind of cool to watch, so I mean, I felt like they were unnecessary, but you might like them if you're into that sort of really stylized, pretty neat looking sort of scene. Let's see, the tone in this movie, as I was saying, is heavy. This is a heavy, heavy film. And that might be a turnoff for some people. It is a lot to get through, because it is so serious, and it's trying to take itself so seriously. Now that, on one hand, is kind of good, that it wants the audience to feel the impact, the emotion, the drama of this movie. On the other hand, it kind of feels a little bit like it's being weighed down by its own self-importance, like it's almost melodramatic sometimes. For me, it worked, but I could see why some people might prefer Marvel, again, for instance, is lighter-hearted tones. Their movies don't tend to get as dark, or at least as heavy, as Batman vs. Superman definitely is. Okay, action. Anybody who's seen Zack Snyder's films, 300, even Sucker Punch, you know that he does action, I think, very well. He's definitely got his own style. And the action in Batman vs. Superman is no exception. It is, like Man of Steel, really amazingly epic. And there is actually, I think, less action in this than there was in Man of Steel as far as how long the fights last. But the fights that are in it, and, you know, like the car chases and such that Batman gets, are really spectacular and amazing, and I really enjoyed seeing them. Okay, so let's talk about the fact that this is Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice. Now, a lot of people were worried that the fact that the Dawn of Justice was in there, this is setting up Justice League and the wider DC Universe, that it might conflict with the Batman vs. Superman side. But I am here to tell you that, at least in my opinion, the Batman vs. Superman gets its time. It gets all the time it needs. And the Dawn of Justice stuff is in addition to that. And it gets some good time too. But this movie could have existed without any of that. But I feel like it makes the movie longer for sure, but it doesn't feel crammed. It doesn't feel like the Dawn of Justice stuff got in the way of Batman vs. Superman. It still gets its time in the sun or in the night. And I am not mad at all that they put in Wonder Woman or that they put in other characters into the movie, because I think it was in such a way that it only added. It didn't. I never felt like I was seeing Justice League stuff when I really wanted to be seeing Batman and Superman, because we got so much of that. Now, does it make the movie long? Yes, but I'm the kind of guy who will watch all 3 Lord of the Rings movies in a row, so this movie does not bother me at all with its length. Might bother some people, but not me. So, overall, Batman vs. Superman, I think, and well, if no one has seen one of my spoilers, none of my spoilers, if no one has seen one of my reviews before, let me tell you that I don't do the 1 through 10 rating system. I don't really feel like that tells you, the audience member who's figuring out whether or not they want to buy a movie ticket, anything at all. It only allows you to stack, oh, is this movie better than that movie? And film and art is so subjective anyway, I think that's kind of silly. So, I just sort of give a bit of advice, which fits into a ranking system if you really want to compare it that way. But for Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice, I'm giving this movie the rating of it's worth watching at least once. I will own it. I really like the movie, but I think everybody who is a fan of superhero movies, a fan of dramatic movies, a fan of action movies, should give this a shot. It is worth checking out. I think a lot of people should just watch it just for the fact that you're getting Batman and Superman on screen together. And when has that happened before? Never. But anyway, if you didn't like Man of Steel, this movie is better than that, but it does have some of the same things that you might have had a problem with. If you don't like really dramatic movies, this movie might be a little bit too heavy for you. If you don't like really stylized stuff, this might get on your nerves. But overall, I think it's a good movie. I think everybody should give it a shot, no matter what some other reviewers might be saying. Alright, so there'll be a link at the end of this video, and if it's gone up by then, it will take you to my spoiler talk, where we can discuss all the juicy little details, who shows up, who doesn't, and how it all fits into the larger DC cinematic universe. So click there. It'll be up in a couple of days after this review. And don't forget to click that subscribe button for more videos. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time. Bye.